because, yeah. Hey guys, it's Gavin here, and I just thought we'd do a quick live stream Sunday. Good Sunday to you all. I have baby Swan. Here's our new baby here. She's 3 days old now. Yeah, say hi. How's the live stream? Oh, you got Binky for her? That's not for me. You want to give it to her?
This one.
Oh, that one's for her. We did a pacifier review with Swan on my Facebook page, facebook.com/callmegav, and she gave her opinions on some different brands of pacifiers. And here, why don't you sit down, baby? I'll give her to you. But yep, we're all just in here, taking care of baby. Here you go. Oh, don't cry, because I'm on live stream. So I just wanted to do a quickie today because I was reading an article in the LA Times today that was quoting me, and it got me thinking about interviews and how often we're misquoted and things like that. Now, I wasn't actually misquoted that bad because the LA Times in this article regarding the Bundys and the Finicums, they had taken quotes from me from a video I did, from a live stream actually that I did. So at least the LA Times is watching my videos, right? That's good. What I want to address though is how we can beat the interview, how we can master the interview, whether it's a direct interview or whether they're taking our words out of a video like this. And I have to be very careful in this personally because everything I say can and will be used against me. And whether it's in an interview taken out of context or in a courtroom, I've literally sat in a courtroom on trial, guys, and seen my Facebook posts displayed up on the screen as evidence against me. And I remember thinking, hey guys, hey Drain, I remember thinking when that was happening, I'm glad I worded that way. Because I'm sitting there and there's a jury looking at my Facebook post. And of course I got railroaded. This is when I got arrested in court for standing up to a judge. But the point was I wasn't ashamed of those words, right? So think about what you say. Hey kid, what you doing there? Think about what you say and how you say it. And consider when you speak, especially when you speak publicly, and this really goes even if you're not in an interview. If you're not being quoted in an interview, if you're going to be speaking publicly, especially with bold truths, make sure that you're thinking about your words, because they can and will be used against you in this fascist society. Hey, Adam. So, here's the deal. How do you own the wording, the interviews? Couple of tips. Now, of course, if you want to speak publicly, right, if you're going to live stream, things like that, absolutely go join like a Toastmasters club. It'll teach you so much about communication and speaking. News Now, how's it going? But think in blocks is what I try and tell people. Okay, here, I'm going to close the door because Swanee's fussing a little bit. Think in blocks. So if I'm being asked something, let's say I'm in an actual interview. I've done a lot of actual interviews, a lot of radio interviews. Here's a couple things they'll use, whether intentionally to throw you off base or just because it's their tactic to control the conversation. Okay? They'll ask you a question. Don't just spit out whatever comes into your head. So let's say they say to you, how do you feel about the FBI hostage rescue team? And you don't want to just say, oh, those guys are effing losers, right? Because they'll quote you in that. But even more than that, you want to qualify your term. So you could be talking about the FBI, and you could say, those guys are terrorists. Or you could say, those goons need to be stopped, right? And so you say that. The FBI has to be stopped. Now, if you just say that, they're going to be like, he says the FBI has to be stopped. If you put that in a block, you say the FBI has to be stopped and resisted peacefully, right? think about how the words are coming out of your mouth. And what you do, it's hard for them to get sound bites that are out of context if you make every segment of your communication contextual. So you qualify a statement, right? They say, well, what about the police? And you make some statement out of police that they then take out of context. So, for example, let's take something a little bit extreme. They say, well, you made a video, Gavin, about police being killed by our founding fathers in the American Revolution. And so how do you feel about police being killed? And if I were to say something like, well, historically, people kill the police when the police become tyrants, or something like that, right? If I take something and I just say something like, I don't even want to say it because they might take it out of context. If I say, well, cops get killed in war, right? They're going to take that and they're going to use it for their own ends if they're trying to make a narrative. But if I complete my thought that's actually in my head and I say, I don't want, let me give you an example of a qualifier. I don't want anybody to die. Not police, not civilians. But the police are murdering people. And historically, there will be a fallout for that, which we're trying to avoid. See, I just gave a bite of information. If they try to slice up that soundbite, it's not going to be a contextually complete sentence. If I were to block it up and then try and qualify the statement later. So if I'm making a statement that might be used against me or that might be controversial, what I'm going to try and do is seek the wisdom to qualify that statement as it's coming out of my mouth. So I hear the words coming out of my mouth. I'm trying to think about what I say before I say it. And as I'm saying that, I'm actually churning in my head what might be done with those words. And so I'll actually try and add the details to those words as I'm doing it. Another thing you'll see in interviews, if you're on camera, is they'll confuse you on where to look, right? So they'll have a guy standing over here, right? They'll have a guy standing over here with a camera pointed at you and a guy standing over here to your right that's talking to you. And so what happens is, if you're back and forth, it makes you look shifty. And oftentimes I think this is intentional in interviews because they want the interview to assume a calm demeanor, like they're in charge, and they want the interviewee to look kind of scatterbrained. And that way, if they want the interviewee to be portrayed in a light that's less credible than them because they're building a narrative, it's easy to do. So here's what happens in an interview if you're not experienced. And it takes a strong effort to overcome this. Guy is talking to you to the right, camera guy is to the left. Okay? So what they'll often do is they'll say, oh, just look at me. Look at the camera. And I've had interviews where they'll tell me where to look and I flat out ignore them. I don't care. I'm not there to be directed by them. I'm there to answer their questions if I'm in an interview. And so they'll just say, look at me, right? But what happens is there's a camera guy over here. And so what people will do is interviewer asks the question and they're over here and then they're back over here because they see a camera and they're used to looking at the camera. So they're like, the guy asks the question, they're like, well, I think that, where should I look? I think what we need to do, and they get flustered, and it actually helps you from communicating. So what you want to do is if you're being interviewed on camera, you want to settle in your mind where you're going to look, and that's where you're going to stay looking, okay? So if the interviewer, a lot of times where I'll look, because eye contact is important. You'll see me even trying that. It's a little harder on phones because they have a tiny lens. That's why shiftiness is so exaggerated, because a phone is very close with a wide-angle lens. Okay? But you'll notice that I actually look at the camera when I'm talking to you guys. I look at the lens. On a device this small where the lens is literally this big, it's hard. And let me look back and forth. I take note of where the little circular lens is on the camera when I'm doing a live stream like this. But watch my eyes. If I look to the right of the camera, kind of where your comments are, you can actually see that difference, right? If I'm looking back and forth, you see my eyes shifting. And it looks shifty. Webcams do this too. So it's even harder to look straight at that teeny tiny lens because it is so small and I have to look at an off angle from the screen. It's easier to look at a large camera lens because a large camera lens is going to be way out. It might be 10 feet away with a larger lens and the lens is going to be this big. So it's much easier to stay focused on that, and also the larger camera lens doesn't show the slight shifts near as much. But be aware of these things, because if you're trying to get a message out, you want to connect with people. So typically in an interview situation, there might be rare situations, you know, if you consider like maybe a Jay Leno type situation or something like that where you're on stage, yes, then you're interacting with the interviewer. But if the interviewer is off camera, you look at the camera. What the interviewer is doing, they're putting themselves off camera and they're asking you questions. But their questions probably aren't going to be in the finished cut. Okay, because it's not a stage conversation. It's them asking questions and you answering questions. So in the end, they're going to ask questions for 5 minutes, and then they're going to take 30 seconds of those questions without them in it most of the time and isolate those questions. What does that mean? It means that if you don't have a pre-plan, you're going to be distracted. You're going to be like looking over here. Well, yeah, I think that the answer to that. So now you're not engaging with the audience. You're engaging with an inanimate third person that doesn't exist. Imagine if I did all my videos like this. You know what, guys? We believe in freedom. We believe in people having justice. And we want people to stand up for it, right? That's a traditional I'm looking at the camera. All right? Now let me say this looking at you guys. Guys, we believe in freedom. We believe in justice. We want people to step up. We want them to love their neighbor. We want everyone to be free. We want to care about each other. Okay, so that's a soundbite, right, that cannot be taken out of context. That's the kind of thing that I would close an interview with, looking straight at that camera, making sure that I'm sending the heart of my message out, right? And engaging with that camera, not letting myself be distracted. So if that interviewer is not going to be on camera, I'm not going to listen to that interviewer if they say, look at me. I'm going to be looking straight at that camera. And that's a hard thing when somebody's over here talking to you. And I've even had them be like, oh, can you look at me? And I'm like, oh, no, I'll look at the camera. Because I know that that camera is what's looking at me. It's not the interviewer that they're going to be seeing. So some of these things may sound a little bit, pretentious, like, oh, it's about making me look good on camera, but it's about carrying the message and make sure they don't spin it out of context and manipulate and twist your words. So you combine good engagement with who you're talking to. It's a lot easier on the radio or something like that, but you still want to keep your thoughts coherent. You want to think in blocks, open, middle, close, right? And you'll see me doing this all the time, even in small segments, right? So what did I say? Today's topic, I said, was how to beat the interview, how to deal with the situations, right? I opened up with that and said sometimes they manipulate us in interviews. The way we do that is we engage with the audience and we speak in blocks of information that can't easily be out of context. We complete thoughts and we qualify statements if we're making statements that might be controversial or are likely to be taken out of context. And finally, I come back with a recap that I'm doing right now. Everything is this little open, middle, close. So even if I'm doing, hi buddy, even if I'm doing an answer to a question that's only going to be 30 seconds, they say, well, Gavin, how do you feel about the arrest of Jeff Winehouse and his conviction? And I'll be like, oh, the arrest of Jeff Winehouse was completely a sham. His conviction was an absolute kangaroo court. He didn't commit any of the crimes that he was charged with. In fact, he was charged with the crimes that were committed against him, and now they've put him in jail, and he needs to be set free, right? So that's a complete thought. It has an open, middle, close, and it's not easily taken out of context. If I answered that question with, I am so angry at the government, Jeff Winehouse is a good person, and I start kind of going off, right? I'm going to give them abilities. I may still convey my thoughts, but I'm going to give them the ability to take segments out and use them for their narrative instead of using them for the simple narrative of truth. Okay, so I know this wasn't a super exciting video, but I like to do these for, there's actually an educational category on this channel, and if you go to the channel, you'll find law school, and there's various videos on here on tactic and things like that. And I want us all to be communicators. I want you guys making videos like this, going out and doing activism. We can all communicate and get the message out there. And just remember, when you're communicating, it's not about your ego. It's not about you making everyone else look stupid. It's about just a simple, pure, neighbor-loving message. Be bold with it. Don't be afraid to just, shut down the lies and the slander and the fakery. But at the same time, just stick to the simple truths and speak boldly. And I just wanted to share this. It was on my mind, and when something's on my mind, I like to get it off my mind and get it onto a video, because somebody's going to ask me this question later down the road, like, what are your tips for dealing with interviews? And I can point you guys to this video. So my tips are: keep your thoughts coherent, keep kind of the bullet points in your mind, your open, middle, close. Engage with the viewer, with the camera. Look into the camera in almost all cases, unless sometimes you can interact with the interviewer if it's a situation where the interviewer is sitting on stage with you. If it's on radio, it's a similar thing, but it's less with eye contact. It's with the voice. You contact with the voice. You engage. You have condensed open, middle, close answers that have potency and are not easily taken out of context, and sound bites, and use pauses in between to enunciate your words, because the pauses are the punctuation of the spoken word. And if you use those pauses, especially on radio and things like that, it'll help separate and condense your words, even if you're a bit of a fast talker, like me. All right? You guys have a good day. And in terms of me getting arrested and some of the things that came up in this video, you guys can go to my channel. If you search for the video of Gavin getting arrested, you'll see that. And you'll also see the, lots of videos related to it in terms of when I was dealing with trial. The closing arguments in my trial are on there, and all that kind of stuff. But you guys take care. Like, subscribe, and share, and head over to facebook.com/callmegav. Also, if you guys want to get some of my important updates, I send out emails now and then. Callmegav.com/newsletter for those updates, if you want to just join my email list. And once every few weeks, I usually send an email with something in it. So anyways, you guys have a good Sunday. Say Titus. Say hi. You gonna say bye-bye? Yeah, there you go. Good boy. Hey, guys. You have a good day. We'll talk soon.